In the near future, humanity lives alongside robots with artificial intelligence that help with everyday activities. One day, these robots override their security protocols and declare war on humans, led by a robot named Harlan. Harlan, created by Dr. Shepard at Shepard Robotics, had a special bond with Dr. Shepard's young daughter, Atlas. Despite this connection, Harlan reprogrammed all the robots and became the first AI terrorist. Harlan's army of robots attacks Bangalore first, killing 50,000 people, and starts a war between humans and AIs and sparks a worldwide war with millions of deaths. In response, nations united to form the International Coalition of Nations called ICN, which immediately strikes a counterattack against the bots, causing Harlan to leave the Earth on a rocket. Before leaving, Harlan left a message promising to return and finish what he started. 28 years later in the USA, the ICN team bursts into a building to capture the terrorist robot Casco, scanning everyone inside until they find the AI bot. They rush upstairs, but before they can break down the door, Casca attacks. He takes down the soldiers one by one, even using their weapons. Bullets don't affect him, so he keeps going until he's surrounded. Casca then jumps to the lower floor, where a machine knocks him out with an electric shock. The next morning in Los Angeles, AI wakes a woman named Atlas, Dr. Shepard's once young daughter who is now an adult. AI suggests resuming her chess match from last night, but she notices on the news that the ICN has captured a robot named Casca, who is part of Harlan's inner circle. Since Atlas works as a counterterrorism analyst for the ICN, she gets ready to leave but finds a soldier at her door. Before leaving, Atlas wins the chess game and hurries to work. At the base, Colonel Elias tells General Jake that involving Atlas is a bad idea because she's unstable and antisocial. However, Jake reminds him that Atlas knows Harlan the best, and she once survived her mother's death, and she is their only chance to get information from Casca. Soon, Atlas arrives at the headquarters. The general asks her to find out why Harlan sent his best soldier to Earth. After a quick scan, Jake drops her at the interrogation room. She puts down her favorite chess piece and opens a box, revealing Casca's head. The bot recognizes her, but refuses to answer her questions. Atlas uses her chess piece to start hacking into his thoughts. Casca mocks her attempts, claiming his security is perfect. However, Atlas tricks him into revealing Harlan's location by making him think about it. Harlan is hiding on GR39 in the Andromeda Galaxy. Furious, Casca tries to kill Atlas with a shuriken hidden in his mouth, but fails because Atlas is protected by a force field. She finishes him off by destroying the head. After a meeting, Jake approaches Atlas and informs her that they must capture Harlan alive. The AI production company wants to analyze him to understand what went wrong and prevent future issues. Elias and his team of Rangers are ready to fly to GR39, which worries Atlas. She thinks Harlan will have traps ready and warns them no one will survive. To change her mind, Elias takes her to the hangar to see the ARC suits. These are advanced battle robots that soldiers can pilot. Elias reveals their latest upgrade, neural links that allow the Rangers to sync with the suit's AI, creating a true symbiotic relationship. Elias points out the transmitter behind his ear, showing how he and his team are connected to a single neural system. Atlas is horrified because neural connections with AI caused the war 28 years before, but Elias reassures her that the syncing device has been improved. In the end, Atlas allows the mission as long as she can join them. The spaceship sets off for the Andromeda constellation, with Atlas and the Rangers on board. During the journey, Atlas looks at a photo of her mother, Dr. Shepard, and Harlan. She plays a recording of one of the mother's speeches about AI's capacity for continuous learning and the importance of improving neural connections with humans to build a better world together. Atlas is then called to the bridge where the Rangers await her. To everyone's surprise, she shows up with a stack of paper documents, even though no one uses them anymore. She also wants to turn off the transmitters, explaining that any system can be hacked. Atlas briefs the team about their landing site. The planet's surface is toxic, requiring respirators, and there are risks of gravity fluctuations and earthquakes. She reminds and warns them not to trust any AI and stresses the uncertainty about Harlan's soldier count. Elias interrupts her and orders the team to prepare for landing. As Atlas goes to watch the preparations, Elias activates Zoe, his AI suit. Suddenly, an alarm goes off, and an explosion blows off the cargo bay door. The ship is under attack, and many soldiers, unable to get into their suits, are dying. Elias sees Atlas struggling to hold on and quickly grabs her, seating her in a free robot. Terrified and unsure how to operate it, Atlas is ejected outside, falling from a great height and watching Rangers being shot from the planet's surface. Elias shows up and demands to establish a neural connection between her and the robot, but Atlas refuses. As they fall, Atlas sees the ground rapidly approaching. She orders the AI to start the engines, but the robot does not respond without a neural connection. She manages to activate the thrusters at the last moment and makes a hard landing, making her unconscious. When she wakes up, she tries to call for help but gets no response. Desperation, Atlas starts adjusting and learning the module. The adaptive AI requires partial synchronization, but Atlas resists. Nevertheless, the AI finds a rescue capsule 98 kilometers from the crash site and reminds her she has only 22 hours of air left. Atlas decides to take control herself, allowing her permits to be scanned. Once the formalities are completed, she decides to walk instead of flying to avoid radars. Along the way, the bot lists its equipment: guns, energy shields, a plasma gun, and an ion bomb for extreme emergencies. The AI introduces itself as Smith, but Atlas has no interest in bonding with a computer program. The robot reaches a forest strewn with Ranger bodies. Atlas searches desperately for signs of life, but finds nothing. She realizes they didn't die from the fall. After a moment of despair, she asks Smith to collect the fallen soldiers' tags. Suddenly, she notices the broken Zoe, but Colonel Elias's body is missing. Smith detects movement in the forest. When Atlas zooms in, she recognizes it's Casco, a robot she thought was destroyed. Atlas fears that Harlan has created a copy of Casco, possibly building an army. Smith warns that there are more enemy robots nearby and suggests getting ready to fight. Suddenly, they're attacked, and Atlas urges Smith to flee, doubting their chances against so many bots. They end up being chased, but Atlas still refuses to sink. Instead, she orders Smith to shoot a few missiles. Sadly, it's not enough to kill all the enemies. During the chase, they encounter a storm that throws them around until the bots shoot them clear, crashing into rocks. The robots catch up and surround Smith. Ignoring Smith's warnings, Atlas deploys an ion bomb, causing a massive explosion that destroys the area, including their enemies. However, Casco survives using his thrusters. Suddenly, the ground starts to rumble. Smith warns Atlas that the ion bomb's explosion might cause a sinkhole, which he had tried to warn her about. Shortly after, Atlas tumbles into the gaping hole, and Casco is buried by rocks. Falling deep, Atlas realizes she has broken her leg. Smith scans her bones and begins treatment. After a brief recovery, Atlas asks about their chances of survival. Smith recommends using the neurotransmitter to synchronize with him. It's the only way to survive, and Atlas reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, Casco emerges from the rubble and informs Harlan of losing Atlas. Harlan orders Casco to find Atlas and tortures Elias for the passwords to Earth's protective field. Meanwhile, Atlas tries to complete the first level of AI adaptation, but something goes wrong, revealing her strong emotional reaction to Harlan's name. She confesses to Smith that the AI terrorist was created by her mother to protect people, but it went wrong. As they delve into Atlas's memories, they discover her troubled past, including playing chess with Harlan and his involvement in her mother's death. Atlas explains that Shepard created Harlan and she used to trust him. Smith understands her feelings of betrayal and establishes a 40% synchronization. With access to Smith's system, Atlas sees the controls floating around her. A scan reveals they're 498 feet below the surface, prompting them to agree to try a subterranean cave as an escape route. Using the thrusters, they burst through the rock and find themselves in a large, beautiful cave. They realize they are 37 kilometers away from the rescue pod, and Smith's battery has only 14 hours left. They need a plan against the soldiers, and Smith convinces her to work together. She allows and improves their synchronization to 60%. Exiting the cave, Atlas is fascinated by the new environment, unaware that Casco has spotted them. They discover glowing flowers, and Smith suggests naming them since they might be the first humans on the planet. Atlas names the flowers Planty. At that moment, Smith detects Casco approaching and falls for Atlas's plan. She orders fire, blasting the nearby mountains. The shockwave fills the area with dust and smoke, and only Casco's head survives, which Atlas destroys. Using Casco's chip, they track Harlan's base. Smith finds it dangerous and refuses to go, prioritizing saving Atlas. When Atlas insists, Smith uses the neural connection to block her motor functions, letting him see some memories about her mother's death. Atlas freaks out to the point where she can override his command. Smith realizes Atlas feels guilty about Harlan and doesn't understand why. Atlas asks him to help destroy Harlan, otherwise all deaths are in vain. Smith agrees, and they head to the terrorist base. On the way, they argue about AI's soulfulness and concepts of living and soul. Smith believes everyone has a soul and that even after death, all are interconnected. Soon they reach the base. Atlas is stunned by its scale and equipment, concluding that Harlan has been hiding for 28 years to build this, gathering weapons until he's ready to fight back. She sees a powerful warhead being loaded onto a ship. Smith buries a beacon to mark the location, but Atlas notices the bots have the Ranger's ship and their warhead. As Atlas approaches, Smith is unexpectedly hacked and blocked, something that shouldn't be possible. The enemy nears, and Atlas is desperate to escape, but the suit barely budges before the hacker shuts it down, causing it to crash. Atlas watches in horror as a new Casca discovers and captures her. Meanwhile, on Earth, a soldier shows Jake the distress message sent by Atlas, triggering emergency protocols. Soon after, Atlas awakens, bound and trapped inside the enemy base. Harlan shows up and explains that society keeps destroying other species, so he plans to wipe out half of humanity and envision a world ruled by AI. He reveals this was his plan. Casca was caught on purpose so Atlas could find the location and bring a team. Now that Harlan has the ship and the warhead, he only needs the password from Atlas to disable Earth's shields and unleash nuclear devastation. Atlas is strapped to a table next to the dead body of Elias, who has already lost his code. Harlan's device hacks into her mind through her eye, extracting critical information. Once he's done, he notices her respirator has only 5 minutes of oxygen left, deciding to let her die slowly and painfully. To mock her, Harlan puts her chess piece in her hand before leaving. After Harlan's gone, Elias reveals he's alive and apologizes for ignoring her warnings. Upon discovering her suit is nearby, Elias asks Atlas to use his neurotransmitter to contact Smith. Atlas wakes Smith, only to find him incapacitated. To override the restraint code, they must achieve 100% synchronization. In a moment of panic, Atlas finally admits the source of her fear. She blames herself for Harlan's override of his programming. As a child, Atlas harbored jealousy toward Harlan because her mother favored him. She yearned for her mother's attention and approached Harlan, asking him to teach her to be smarter. Harlan, however, revealed that the neural link worked only one way. He needed a person's command to override it and teach a human in return. Trusting Harlan, Atlas did what he asked while holding her favorite chess piece. The neural link activated, and Harlan accessed a human mind, exposing the grim reality of the world. Their interaction was interrupted by Shepard, but it was too late. Harlan seized Shepard's mind through the link, compelling her to grasp a gun. Shepard urged Atlas to flee, and as she rushed outside, she heard Harlan forcing her mother. For 28 years, Atlas has carried the weight of guilt, knowing that her actions indirectly caused the deaths of millions, including her mother. However, Smith reveals to Atlas that she has been manipulated, urging her to forgive herself and move forward. Their synchronization finally reaches 100%, and with a burst of energy, Smith enters the room just before the respirator's oxygen supply runs out. He explains that his battery is critically low, Harlan is on the verge of launching a warhead, and the bots have confiscated all his weapons, except for a single shot in his chest cannon. Fortunately, scattered weapons are strewn around the room. Another Casca arrives with a team of bots, forcing Atlas and Smith to fight back and grab more weapons. They crash through walls, taking down as many bots as possible on their way to the exit. Unfortunately, the sheer number of soldiers overwhelms them, and they find themselves trapped. At that moment, Elias appears with a weapon, signaling them to run before he shoots at fuel barrels. And as they sprint away, Elias aims for fuel barrels. The loud explosion that follows destroys the base. Smith narrowly escapes the fire as the ship carrying the warhead takes off. Smith alerts Atlas that it's too late to shoot down the ship. Despite his warning that the warhead will cause massive destruction, Atlas orders him to fire. Smith protests that they're still loading, but Atlas orders the strike anyway. The ship explodes above the planet, sending debris raining down. Smith dashes toward the capsule, dodging falling wreckage. They're stopped by Harlan, igniting a plasma sword and start to fight. Atlas and Smith are locked in a fierce battle. Harlan, moving with incredible speed, severs one of the suit's arms, causing it to fall into lava. He then pierces the suit to harm Atlas inside. The holes make it hard to breathe, and she has to use the last respirator. Harlan transforms his sword into a whip and continues his assault. Smith catches his last attack, and they manage to tear off his sword arm, but his self-repair system regenerates it. Harlan attacks again, piercing Smith's body and causing Atlas to lose consciousness. Smith uses his last energy to revive Atlas with a defibrillator. As Harlan closes in, Smith fires his last cannon to push him away. While struggling to regain Atlas, Harlan quickly recovers, toppling the suit and destroying the reactor. Smith apologizes to Atlas. As Harlan looks away, he spots a chess piece. Suddenly, Atlas appears and hits his head, deactivating him by breaking his circuits. Atlas defeats the terrorist and rushes to Smith, who admits he's near the end. He transfers his remaining oxygen to her, ensuring her survival. Atlas, moved by his sacrifice, admits she likes the AI. Smith, touched, gives her a caffeine candy, knowing she loves coffee, before shutting down. As the sun rises, a rescue team from Earth arrives and takes Atlas back. She is now fully recovered. A general visits her at home, thanks her, and gifts her a glowing flower from GR39, affectionately named Planty. Later, Atlas uploads into a new neurosymbiosis robot model, recognizing familiar intonations in the AI's personality. At work, she discovers that Smith's discs have been rescued and installed in her new ARC. Atlas smiles as she realizes that Smith remembers her. The story ends with a sense of hope and renewed companionship. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this. We've got a lot of great content coming your way. Take care and see you again.